In this video I will talk about a match I had in the IS-1. I used my tips on how to play this tank and had a great match. So let's start with the initial question, what is my BPM? I got a full down tier match with the IS-1 at the BR 5.3. In my guide I recommend to play this heavy tank as support, but I also mentioned that you can play it a bit more aggressively in down tiers. And this is exactly what I did, because the map we got is advanced to Rhine with domination, and there aren't many good positions to flank the enemy. Normally I would support from the second row, but in this match I moved directly to the spot where all the heavy tanks meet. I encounter a Tiger H1 and a Brummbär. I bounced the first shot of the enemy and used the good mobility of the IS-1 to back up while reloading. It helps to keep moving to make it difficult for the enemy to aim on your weak spots. The Brummbär is a German tank destroyer at the BR 4.3 for realistic battles. I haven't seen many of these tanks in the past, so I'm not very familiar with the weak spots. Here we have a good example of what you can do in such a case. Since it is a tank destroyer, I have to assume that the front armor is strong and I am not able to penetrate it, especially since I used the shell with less penetration value for the IS-1. My first shot bounces and now the enemy is pushing. In this situation I try to stop the enemy by destroying the tracks. This creates a situation where the enemy is a sitting duck in my team and I can attack him from different angles. The other player is facing the front armor of his tank towards me, so my next attempt is to destroy the gun and give him even more to repair. Better safe than sorry. My shell does no damage to the gun and then the enemy makes the mistake to angle his tank. If you don't know the weak spots of an enemy tank, you can assume that the front armor is the strongest part of the tank. Sloped armor that connects the front to the side should normally deflect shots because of the steep angle, but only if the front armor is pointed directly at the enemy. In this situation, I was able to fire at this armor and take out the enemy. The IS-1 has a similar armor layout and the same problem. Actually, you can't really angle the IS-1 or show too much of the lower front plate. Only a few seconds later, the same player appears again in the same tank. Now I know where to aim and can take out the enemy. This is a small map, and once the enemy pushes your spawn, it's better to use the second spawn. Don't just rush into the enemy's line of fire. So far I have done well fighting in close combat with the IS-1. As mentioned in my guide, the turret rotation of the IS-1 is more of a disadvantage. In the next situation you can see how I turn my hull in addition to get my gun on the target just in time. The enemy is attacking the capture point B. On any other map, I would be heading to that point right now to help my team. But because this map is so small, within seconds the enemy is at the capture point I'm defending right now. It doesn't always make sense to jump from capture point to capture point. You only need to own and hold 2 points to win the match. But my team struggled to get me back, and so I decide to use the good mobility of the IS-1 and come to help. A stronger enemy is defending the capture point that is closer to our spawn. And to my surprise, the tank I encounter is a now well-known enemy. I know the weak spot and with the capture point I get the distance. After we have captured B, I have to get back to the capture point A. A quick look on the minimap tells me that we only have anti-air at this position, and I have to assume they need my help. The first enemy I encounter is a Panzer 4H. The player hides his tank behind solid cover, and I try to shoot on the commander's hatch. For Panthers and Tigers this works very well, but in this case I only can take out the commander. Next we have an interesting situation. I'm about to encounter 2 enemies. Since they are not focused at me, I can attack with the front. Now I have to choose one enemy and I take the one with the worse armor. This way I take out a hostile gun and my teammate and I have an advantage. Now I have to assume that the other enemy is aware of me. This is why I turn my tank and use side scraping to be able to bounce a shot. The captured Churchill can be a tough tank to destroy, especially with all the bushes on it. In this situation I decide that I don't want to risk getting shot by the enemy. The IS-1 has a good mobility for a heavy tank, and you can use this to your advantage. I decide to relocate and see if I can attack the enemy from a different angle. Doing so I am able to shoot on the side of the turret and can take out this enemy. In the end I was able to take out 9 enemies in this down tier match. I have to admit that I did not play the IS-1 as a support, and rather brawled with it. As mentioned in my guide, this works occasionally and you should use my other tips in addition to be successful. Like, subscribe and leave a comment if you want to, and check out my Discord server for more information and to connect with other players. Hope to see you in game soon.